Dave Hillman is a member of the South Dakota Canoe Kayak Association, and the last numerous years, I think, has been donating some money to us. And he's a active whitewater paddler over in Iowa, Cedar Rapids, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And I think he's got a little more of a bio in his presentation about his upcoming trip. So I'll just kind of leave it to him now.
All right. Well, thank you, sir. So, yeah, Patrick asked, and I thought, why not? I'm to that point where I'm committed. I'm going to go do this thing. And for those that don't know me and those that do, I hate camping. I mean, I absolutely hate camping. I'm 60 years old. My idea of at the end of a day of paddling your butt off is a hot shower and a mattress, and that's not going to work. So I've got 3,600 miles of, I'm going to get used to a tent and an air mattress and have some fun. But the picture you're looking there is Three Forks, Montana. That's where most everybody starts. While I think it'd be kind of cool to maybe go up on the Gallatin or the Jefferson, come down the feeders into Three Forks. It's the Jefferson, Gallatin, and Madison. And they have some pretty good whitewater in parts of those, but I think I'm just going to do the traditional thing. So we're going to hit that and start there at Three Forks. So next slide, please. So real quick, here's the agenda today. Going to try to leave a lot of time for questions, but give you a brief bio of who I am, what the trip plan is, what I'm paddling, what I would call the 5 important pieces of gear, and then questions. And yes, that's not me, but I've done that with a shuttle vehicle. How many boats can you get on it and get down the road and not attract the attention of the highway patrol? Next, please. So I have been paddling actively, competitively since 1977. So that means this is year 45. My friends say I have gills. I spent a lot of years racing aluminum. I spent about 10, 12 years on the USCA flatwater circuit, racing flatwater. I'm an active whitewater paddler. I race slalom. I'm not as much a canoeer as I used to be. Piper, one of my friends, will get me out. You can see there in the picture. The knees don't take bending down and sitting on saddles like they used to. And then I've been dragon boating, and that's that bottom center picture. That's basically a very large war canoe, but it has 20 people. I paddle and steer, done those for about 30 years. I've had the privilege of paddling in Australia, Costa Rica, Europe, Canada, all over the US. And now that I'm retiring in 3 weeks, I'm going to paddle more in a lot more places. Currently an ACA Level 4 river kayak instructor, and I'm the president of the Iowa Whitewater Coalition, and I'm a coach for the Iowa State Canoe and Kayak Club down in Ames. Next, please. So here it is. You start way up there in Montana at Three Forks, and you can actually go north toward the Canadian border, and eventually you get down the Missouri where it connects to the Mississippi at St. Louis. And originally I had thought, let's just do that. And then it's like, if you're going to go all that way, might as well go the rest. And so my son said, don't stop, old man. So I am putting on the water. I said June 3rd, it's the Saturday, so it might be June 4th. But we get done with the whitewater trip the week before. That gives me about 3-4 days. Some of my gear, like my padlocks and first aid kit, I need to move from the whitewater over to for this trip. The goal is to finish by the end of September at mile marker 0 in the Gulf. Had a thought last year. I thought, well, I can get down there and be lazy. And then someone reminded me, hurricane season starts in September. And I thought, oh yeah. So we don't want to go too much into October. Who knows? I am going to paddle solo. A lot of people have said, well, really? And I said, well, who else has 4 months of their life just to go out and paddle down the river? So, but there are lots of people to see. There's lots of river angels. I'll see a lot of my friends and make new friends. So paddling by myself is not an issue. And I think the one thing, and we had talked about it right before we started, if you look at the blogs of the people who have done this, the number one thing that stands out to me is no schedule. They said they wish they had not, on this day I'm going to do 20 miles. On this day I'll make this point. And this day I'll make this point. And they had said, they wish they had just done a little more freelance. That if you decide I'm up in the Missouri Breaks and I'm camped at one of Lewis and Clark's camps, farmer camps, I'll go hiking that day. Or maybe I just don't feel like, it's raining all day. I don't need to be on the water. I get out of one of the big reservoirs, the wind's blowing it. I don't feel like doing anything. So that's where it's always funny, because I have no idea what my schedule is, other than I'm going to start the 1st of June and I'd like to finish up sometimes toward the end of September. A lot of the people talk, one of the reasons to do this rather than the Mississippi. As a little kid, I had always thought, I've been up to Itasca State Park in Minnesota, and I thought, let's go all the way down the length of the Mississippi. But once you get south of Bemidji, the Mississippi is very much civilized. And one of the beautiful things about the Missouri is that pretty much down to St. Louis, it looks a lot like it did a couple hundred years ago. And that appeals to me. I'd like to see a lot of just what that looks like without a whole lot of civilization. Once I hit St. Louis, I can do 50 to 70 miles a day without a problem. And I will probably just hammer my way down on the last. But the first, at least from Three Forks to St. Louis, I am going to hike and take pictures and just kind of enjoy the trip. Next, please. So what am I paddling? Or how much do you like to eat? So if you like to eat, a canoe is a really good vessel, because you can put everything and anything in it. All the water you want, everything. However, being a kayaker, I'm kind of still addicted to speed. You can see here, it's my 17-foot current design kayak. It's got two pretty healthy hatches, one in front and one in back. But I've already kind of scoped it out. I can get everything in here, but it's going to be tight. And I'm going pretty much very low key. You're not going to haul a lot of extra stuff with me. Going to have a Werner paddle. I've got an Astral YKT jacket I'm going to use. Not going to take my rescue vest. Want something a little bit more fitting. And I don't plan on rescuing lots of people. So I'm going to take my racing vest. And then roughly 50 pounds of gear, 50 pounds of food, 50 pounds of food, water turns into about 3 weeks. And a lot of the folks that did this trip, 15, 20 years ago, things weren't as developed. They were mailing resupply packages to post offices and stuff. And today in 2022, the marinas are there. For the most part, I can get potable water every 2 or 3 days. So overall, it's a little more relaxed trip than what some of the folks who have done this have done. But I'm all set. That will be the beast. And I'm going to eat less than I normally do. My friends know I'm a food hound. I love to eat. I'm a foodie. But this trip, no, we're gonna cut that back just a bit. Next, please. Up the other direction, please. So there's one thing that Norm Miller puts out on the Missouri Paddlers site is when he interviews a lot of people that do this trip, he always asks, what's your most important gear? What are the 5 things you wish you had? And I thought that would be good for the presentation tonight. And number 1 is an inReach GPS. In fact, it rained here all day last Saturday, miserable outside, couldn't do anything. So I took my inReach class it's a master class, just to refresh myself. inReach does 2 things. It's a satellite tracker. I will have an active site, so that people want to watch my plodding along down the river, they can do that. That also helps when I'm trying to connect to River Angels and other folks. It also works, and that's tied up to the Iridium satellite system. It also does SMS, just short text messages, and that goes through a different system up in the sky. But I can send text mostly to my son. He said I had to have this. And his exact words are, Dad, if you don't move for 4 days and you don't send me a text at least once in those 4 days, we'll assume you're dead and we're going to come up and get your body. So it is my connection to the world when I'm out in the middle of nowhere. Very low on power, doesn't consume a lot. Just, one of those modern conveniences a lot of the other folks who have done this trip haven't done. I have solar panels and power bricks. And what one can do is you put the solar panels in a mat bag on your deck. And while you're paddling, at least when it's sunny, you can be charging your bricks all day long. And then when you get into camp, you charge your electronics back up. Everything I have with me is all USB rechargeable. So, and again, when I hit civilization, some of the camps, I can go grab some power or the River Angels and power up some of my devices. But for the most part, everyone has said a good solar panel like this, that'll keep me going. Even though based on everything, all my research, I can get potable water every few days, except on the big reservoirs. I'm going to take a Sawyer water filter. I have Aqua Mirror. I can treat water. Somebody's always asked, really, you're going to drink that? And I said, you wouldn't believe some of the water I paddled in. I haven't drank it, but you wouldn't believe what I paddled in. So as long as I'm safe, the last thing I want is Giardia. I've had it 3 times. We're not doing that again. So we're going to make sure that our water is in good shape. The last one is more for that last end of the trip, and it's a VHF marine radio. I've done some paddling on the Mississippi. The barge captains really like to be able to talk to things they see on the water. And several of the paddlers who have done this trip have highly, highly recommended have a waterproof marine radio, get on the tugs channels. And if they know they can talk to you, you can see them. It just creates a whole lot more safety minded thing on the river, especially when I get down towards New Orleans, the bottom of the trip when the tugs, I'm going to see a lot more boat traffic. So it'll be very helpful. I know how to stay out of boat traffic. I'll be on the edges and stuff. But just having that communication, that's high on the list. And the last, which is River Angels. Norm Miller has sent me a list of all these really cool people that I get to talk to and see. And I think that's part of it where, especially in the upper half in the Dakotas, when you're trying to get around dams, I have a little cart. I can walk around it with my boat if I need to. But a lot of people are there just say, hey, give me a call and I'll run down with a trailer and I'll give you a hand. The folks on the Missouri River Group too have said, if you just stay at a boat ramp and you look really, really miserable and you have a $20 bill in your hand, someone will take you around the dam. So that's, I think, the 5 things. If you said, what do you really want to have? Those are the ones that are important. So, and I'd say Patrick Lassell. As you can see, this is the Golly, that's Pillow Rock. I think the one difference for me is I'm a paddler. Water, 5-foot waves and strainers on the corner of the river and rapids I have been underwater in places I shouldn't have been. So this trip, I'm really looking forward to just cruising, flatwater paddling, not having to wear a hard helmet, just enjoying the river and the wildlife and taking lots of notes and just having a blast. So that's the trip in a nutshell. I would open it up. Folks have questions or any comments, let's have some fun. I usually don't put everybody to sleep that fast.
I won't be shy. I'll start in, Dave. I was just I made a couple of short notes. Just wanted to kind of find out. I think how anybody might be able to help, or after a while you might want somebody to paddle with. You might not. But is there any intelligence that you don't have yet? I know Norm Miller, he's compiled an incredible amount of stuff, and yeah, I was just curious if there's anything you're looking for.
No, I've got the last little bit. I just got it last month. There was a Zoom meeting with the Missouri crew. It was the very bottom end. They always go to mile marker 0. And I'm like, where the hell is mile marker 0? Well, mile marker 0 is at the head of passes. Well, the head of passes is still the Mississippi River. So I'm going to have to go past to get to the Gulf and then paddle back up. And that was the only thing that I really didn't have an idea mappage and some ideas. I've downloaded the maps. InReach has some really good maps. I've got all that. It's very detailed. So from a mappage standpoint, but yeah, that was the only piece left. It was like, what's the bottom end of this supposed to look like? Because I clearly, I want to touch saltwater at some point if I'm going to go that far.
Yeah, I know what you mean. The delta is quite long.
And looks convoluted, but you know, at head of passes, there's 3 very clear channels. And so it's like, okay, I can handle that. Paddling back upstream, while it's not my most favorite activity, I've done tons of training runs where you know, I don't want to get a shuttle set up. So I go to the river, I paddle 10 miles upstream, turn around and paddle back down. So I'll be able to handle that. On the chat, somebody had said, are you the first to do the entire trip? Oh, no. I think I'll be the first Iowan, but people have done this solo in canoes and kayaks on a sup. Someone did it standing up on a sup the whole way down. Amazing. So no, lots of people have done this. They've done it in rowing rigs. They've done it sailing rigs. So yeah, it's just, it's really, I'm very comfortable in a kayak, and I like the speed. I like dealing with weather in a kayak. I can have waves going over the top of me. I don't care. Canoe, you know, last year about 22 people started the journey. Only one gal finished it. Amanda finished it, but there was somebody that got bit by a snake. That kind of ended their trip. They turned out fine. A couple gentlemen were in their canoe up on one of the reservoirs that got swamped and couldn't get the water out and back in. So to me, a kayak gives me the maximum amount of comfort, because there'll be days when I'm by myself. There'll be days when I'm paddling with people. I'm just open to whatever kind of comes along. Ooh, good. The chat's lighting up. Water. So I've been watching, Norm's been posting a ton of stuff, a lot of really good stuff up there. They've only had about 80% of the snowpack up in what really feeds. And the normal bubble that comes down the Missouri River is April, May, June. This year, that bubble is going to be smaller, probably going to finish sooner. So yeah, it'd be nice to have high water or higher water, but with higher water, you know, good, I can do 70 miles a day. Higher water means there's no sandbars. So I would rather take low water, and I'll go find that channel. I know how to find channels as a flatwater racer. I know how to read the river and, you know, stay out of the 6-inch stuff and get the 6-foot stuff. So, and again, I'm not in a hurry. So if I make a wrong turn and go, whoops, I've got to go the other way, I'll just turn around and go the other way. Other questions?
What types of sources did you use for when you were trying to plan this? Was there like a guidebook, or did you just use all kinds of different people, or how did you plan it?
Good question. In fact, I got to see it. So, number one on Facebook is the Missouri River Paddlers. And by golly, there it is. The other, and it's not $1,000 out on Amazon as it says. You probably can see that, but this is the Bible. This is the Complete Paddler by Dave Miller. And Dave does an amazing job of detail. In fact, I'm going to take some tips from Dave. Every night I get done, I'm going to write down my GPS coordinates in my log so that I can put this trip back together. But there's a lot of really good stuff in Dave's book. The Facebook page, the paddlers that have been there, the Zoom meetings that Norm has put together, immensely useful. You got to realize everyone has different opinions, like drinking the water. Some people don't want to do that. I don't care. I'm going to treat it. I'll be near potable water, but that group is just immensely knowledgeable. So other those Dave's book and the paddling group, and then just your own resources. That I guess the one thing, again, I say I'm a paddler. A couple of the folks said the day they put their canoes on the water at Three Forks is the first time they ever paddled canoe. As an engineer, that freaks me out. Okay, I know I got 3,600 miles to figure it out, but I want to be able to paddle a little bit better than that on day one. So it just gives a lot of credence that as long as you are willing to be very flexible, this trip You know, someone said, what about bears? There hasn't never been a bear incident. Anyone's unreported. There's snakes. I lived in California for 4 years. When you hike and move around snake country, you know, like when you come in to set up camp, you sweep camp, you get your paddle out and you make sure you cover the ground where you're going to be, just in case somebody's laying there looking for a mouse and you interrupt their game. Ticks. I'm probably more worried about Lyme's disease and ticks. I've got a bottle. Every tick that I pull off is going in this little bottle. And if I get near medical facilities and not feeling well, at least they can go look at the ticks. But no, other than that, you know, from that top end, not too worried. Let's see, confirming. So I do have a nylon spray skirt. My boat is sealed on both ends. The cockpit is sealed off from the end, so the boat can't sink. It's got and all my dry bags are going to turn into the best flotation on the planet. But I do have a nylon spray skirt that I can put over the top and shed water if it gets big. I've kind of in my mind thought about, you know, if it gets that big, there's really cool sandbars. Let's go hiking for the day. Why? And several of the people have talked about they've been windbound. Fort Peck or Lake Peck or whatever it's called. I always say this wrong. Oahe. Both. Thank you. Oahe. You know, they're a couple hundred miles. That's big water. And if the wind can get it pushing, I mean, I always let Patrick's out. He shows pictures of that. Okay, how did he get glass? And everybody else is out there in the North Sea. So yeah, when it gets real rough, if it's to the point where I'm really worried about shedding water, I should be off the water, and I will be. I'll just go find a camp, set up, and then enjoy the rest of the day. Charge up my panel and have fun.
Looks like we got a question in the chat about backpack. Is your camping gear more, from Kathleen, is it more backpacking scale or a bit cushier?
So since I decided I can't eat and I want speed in my kayak, it is very much a high-end backpacking. I have a very, you know, you think about it, 50 pounds of food, 50 pounds of gear. So my tent it weighs ounces. My pillow is an inflatable pillow. I've got a climate sleeping bag that weighs nothing. I've got a ground pad that weighs nothing. I have optimized all my gear. Maybe the heaviest thing I've got is the stakes themselves for the tent. I've got both standard stakes and sand stakes because you never know what you're camping on. Mm-hmm. So I have tried to keep my gear as light as I can possibly get away with, so I can, you know, at least like when I get to Fort Benton and go to the grocery store, I can buy a dozen apples and have apples for a couple of days till I run out, kind of thing. I don't want to haul. Now you think about it, you're hauling all that gear. It's harder to roll. I can roll my boat. It's hard to roll a boat with all that gear. It's harder to paddle with all that gear. Most of us are very used to just paddling ourselves in a boat. As an instructor, I typically have a safety kit, throw bag, extra gear in the back end, but I'm not going to have the kind of weight I have here, which means I'm not going to be running rapids down at St. Louis at the chain of rocks. I'm either going to be far river left on that channel or far river right on the commercial channel. I'll wave at the rapids when I go by. We're going to leave them alone. So yeah, very heavy. And it's going to be a tent. Some people, I thought about a hammock, but unfortunately on the upper reaches, finding trees means I'm going to be into the woods. I would rather be out on the sandbars. I have a bug suit. I hope I don't have to use it. Some years you have to have a bug suit. Some years you don't. But yeah, I'm going to stay out of the woods. And some people have hauled poles so they can put their hammock up, but I don't want the weight. So a lot of my gear is very much towards solo backpacking. Literally my tent holds one person. Just everything is small and light.
Are you going to be taking any lights for trying to paddle at night at all, in case you get multiple days of wind, or
nope.
Try to make
nope. The one thing that's interesting, a number of people said is, one thing is you just start to, once you shed all the electronics we have around us every day, what will happen is when the sun goes down, I go to bed. When the sun comes up, I get up, and your body clock starts to, a lot of the paddlers have talked about, they just adjust to that. That it is, what we used to do a zillion years ago. And it's just a natural rhythm you start to get, because I do have a camp light. I've got a headlight that's, again, rechargeable off my solar, but I like to sleep too. I've decided I'm a hermit, so getting 8-10 hours of sleep would not be a bad thing.
Looks like we got another one on the mess chat from Martha. What do you think your daily average miles will be?
So I was told, looking at some of the numbers and research, that like the Missouri can flow at 7 miles per hour. Well, if it was doing 7 miles per hour, and I think it's probably closer to 3 or 4,
Yeah.
given the water conditions I'm going to have. But if it was 7 miles per hour, 3 hours is 20 miles. So without doing anything, you can clear 20 miles a day without any big deal. I do plan, I've got the maps for the Missouri breaks from Fort Benton down to Judith Landing. There's some amazing things in there for hiking, Lewis and Clark sites. I plan on spending, it's 150 miles, so you could clear that in 2 or 3 days. I'm going to be in there at least a week. I plan on doing hiking, pictures, just exploring. I think that'll be fun. But yeah, I'm guessing 20 miles a day might be something I see. Again, once I get to St. Louis, I'm going to haul. I'm just going to go into race mode and crank out some miles, just because down there it won't be nearly what I'll get to experience in the upper stretches of the river.
Dave, have you been to the breaks?
Never. I have never. I've done. In fact, I have never paddled the Missouri River. We were going to do it in 2017 or 18, and then it flooded like crazy. My son's been up in Whitewater on the Gallatin, but I have never been there. So this is like a big check the box experience.
It's worth spending the time, and you're thinking about it right. The water moves fast there. The water does not move on the lakes, though, the dams,
Yep. Yep.
But the breaks, there's a lot of campsites. I'm sure you've looked, but a number of them have some decent shelters to get out of the weather, and very nice. Take your time, because you're right. 3 hours is you're going to cover 20 miles easy, and it's worth it. So that'll be nice.
One of the interesting things out of the Missouri River group was that, a lot of the people that do this aren't Midwesterners. They've come out of Michigan or one of the coasts, and they were not ready for Midwest weather. I've been through 3 tornadoes already. I've been in the middle of a hailstorm. I'm a little worried about some of that weather. There's some pretty good documentation about making sure you've got extra paracord to make sure your tent's held down. I've got extra stakes. So we're gonna go with that. But maybe weather is the other thing, just to make sure. But like you said, in the breaks are some hardened shelters and things that I can use. I think the idea is just to, we spend our work lives. I've spent 40 years working, and I've got a schedule. Well, I'm about to have 4 months, so I don't care what the schedule is. I'm just going to enjoy the world. So. Let's see. Yeah, as soon as this weekend's actually a trial. So one of the things someone asked, can we follow your adventure on Facebook? And the answer is yes. My InReach has what's called Map Share, and I'm going to put out the link so that people, anytime if you're really bored and need to fall asleep, you can say, where's Hillman this day? Or where's he setting? But I'm going to do the Map Share. For 2 reasons. One, that way my son can make sure that the old man isn't being stupid. The other is for the river angels. So when I want to connect with people, they can keep an idea where I am and when I'm rolling up to stuff. Because I won't always have cell phone coverage, but I'll have InReach mapping the whole entire trip. So that'll help out, just kind of keeping an eye where I'm going to be and what's going on. So see what else just popped in. A lot of it is looking at what the other paddlers did. Missouri Breaks is huge. I want to look at a lot of the Lewis and Clark sites. I have done very little paddling in terms of, this will be my longest distance paddle. The most I've ever done in a day is 70, 80 miles kind of thing. So this is going to be a little bit more than that. But in Iowa, DeSoto Bend, the Bertrands over there. I haven't been over and seen the Bertrand in years. There is just a lot of places all the way along. Fort Benton, I want to see the museum. I got to stop and get a permit anyway, but I want to see the museum. There is just a lot of neat little things all the way along that I'm planning on, hey, today let's go do this. Other questions?
Will you have will you be able to like text along the way? I'm just thinking about, I've been a river angel, others too on the call, and we end up meeting somewhere, and we know where the bars are that you can go get a burger and a beer that night, and a cooked meal, and save your provisions a little bit.
Yeah, my son says I'm going to get sick of rice and noodles really quick, but
yeah.
I'm used to eating ramen. I did that in school, but yeah, I am lucky that as an engineer, I've had a pretty good career. I'm not hurting dollars wise. I am going to have the InReach plan. I'm going to turn it on next month where I have unlimited text. So people can text me, I can text them. It just that way it opens up that communication, especially when cell phones are down. The InReach, again, SMS is little short snippets. They like 2 or 3 sentences. But yeah, I can enable, and I plan on enabling that if people want to ask a question that day, hey, where are you at? How's it going? Did you see this? What's going on? I think that'd be fun interaction. So I plan on enabling that. And again, like you said, from a River Angel standpoint, much easier to connect and find out where everybody is. I'm not against walking around dams, but I forget which one of the dams. I'd have to look in David's book. Well, one of the dams is like a 20-mile portage. And I can do that, but I'm going to be wearing sandals. I'm not bringing the greatest footwear. I've got mud socks and sandals. I'm going to go very low key and very minimal. I'm just not bringing, as a lot of the gangs say on the Missouri page, you have a set of city clothes and grungy clothes. So I have 2 sets of clothes, and that'll be the trip.
I met Neil Moore about 2 years ago. Neil had worn through his pants so bad that he ordered some because he had internet access, and then he had them shipped to. He was going to send them to me, but he ended up sending them to someone else because of his schedule. But yeah, he literally wore through his river pants. So you can always order things and have them drop shipped, and that's another use of anybody that is along the way. And if we're in communication, we can help you portage if we're around, and starting with Pat, at the pier area down to really getting through Sioux City. There's a lot of us folks here on the call that are kind of concentrated in that area. So we'll be looking forward to helping out whatever we can do.
Yeah, I've had a few friends say, like, thank you. I had a few friends say, oh, you're going to be in the sticks. I said, compared to people that did it 20 years ago, this is a luxury cruise. They're just between the electronics and so many people to meet on the river that, hey, yeah, I'm going to be at this landing at 3:00 and I'll meet you there. And hey, I'll have a beer. We'll go grab a greasy burger to get your calories back up. And yeah, and I think that's the thing I'm looking forward to whenever, they say, oh, you're going solo. Not really. I'm going to meet tons of people and do tons of things. So, and I'm guessing it looks like I haven't asked Norm the total number, but there's at least 10 or 15 people that are going to do the trip again this year. Quite a few of them starting before me. So they're trying to hit the rendezvous. I've got a whitewater trip to North Carolina we've been doing for this will be year 26. So my whitewater paddler said, you can't go on the trip till we do our whitewater trip. And I said, okay, we'll go get that done, get back on Memorial Day. And then I've got 3 days to kind of clean up, redo gear. So yeah, this is going to be fun. I just, I've always wanted to do this Huck Finn, Tom Sawyer, and the Missouri breaks look like an amazing stretch of water. And then from there on down, I mean, I went over with my family to DeSoto Bend here in Iowa and looked at the Bertrand. Just walking along sandbars. What's out on the sandbar today? You find all sorts of craziness. So yeah, it's just one of those. The schedule is while you got daylight, have fun. And when there's no daylight, go to sleep.
So my question's a little bit different, and I know lots of people on the call probably know the answer to this. What do you do with your kayak when you're away from it? Like, how do you secure it?
So I've got three 10, so I got 30 foot of padlock essentially. There's a couple spots on the boat I could lock it up. So, again, a lot of the folks do things in stealth. So the number one thing, listening to all the wisdom that comes out, is you don't lock it up at a boat ramp. Boat ramp is ground zero for way too many teenagers and crazy activity. So you tuck it off to an edge, you hide it a little bit. When you're in camp, I put the cart on and take it up, but I do have a padlock. And again, it's really lightweight. It's nothing more than the NRS cable locks. With a really good set of pliers, you can gnaw your way through that in about 10 minutes. But the whole idea is just to deter somebody that's going on. And Norm had a really good idea where you put a sign on your boat that says, "Hi, I'm paddling 3,600 miles. This is my home. Please leave it alone." And there's people at marinas that will watch it. And I have to be a little careful. There have been some thefts at the bottom of the river below St. Louis, where at marinas and where people got maybe just a little too trusting or left a boat out thinking it'd be okay. But I plan on locking it up if I'm in that kind of situation. I've got 100 foot of paracord, just in case I got to strap something down. I'm just hoping the weather guys are a little nicer this year. This last year, a couple of folks were up at Fort Benton and got 3 inches of snow. Someone got a hailstorm, busted their tent up. The weather, as Midwesterners, we're used to it, but the weather can be nasty when, the only thing between you and the weather is, a nylon tent. That's not reassuring at times.
Dave, talk about resupplying a little bit. You'd mentioned your plan, and I know from other guys that they would, drop ship some things. What's your basic plan there to resupply?
So I'm going to do a combination of just talking to River Angels and say, "Hey, can you pick up XYZ? And I'll pay you back. I'll have plenty of cash with me." And then at marinas, again, 20 years ago, there were, you sent things to a post office, which would hold it for 30 days and then it go. And so that locked people into a little bit of a schedule, but good way to do it. No, I haven't dehydrated, spent my summer or winter dehydrating food. And again, I'm pretty well off as an engineer. I've been in the field for 40 years. I'm not hurting for bucks. So I think I checked my numbers. I'm spending like $6 a day. And it's Nor packets with a salmon packet to throw in it. Very interesting. You start to go through the process. Well, I'll cook breakfast, I'll cook lunch, I'll cook supper. When you read through the blogs, breakfast, you don't really want to pack anything hot. So breakfast is usually just a simple, nuts and bars and something cold. When you're paddling during the day, I don't tend to eat when I paddle. So I probably won't eat anything other than just drinking water. And at nights when you do the cooking. So from a meal standpoint, you're really talking one meal a day with, trail mix and energy bars. So it really turns into, it's not as fancy, though. I can guarantee you when I get to Fort Benton, somebody said I'm going to have a steak or a greasy burger or all the French fries I can find, because I'm going to go low. I'm high calorie, but low food content just to keep the boat lighter, try to minimize what I'm hauling. And by everybody's sage wisdom, anything over 3 weeks of food is excessive. You're always within food within any 3 week period. So I'm going to keep it down to 3 weeks and try to make it a little higher quality, a little less quantity from that end. So, but I'm not a fussy eater. I eat everything. So jars of peanut butter are going to be my friend.
Good plan. I was surprised of all the things. I was surprised with Neil Moore, and he just bought boxes of cereal, and just, whether it's Captain Crunch or just wheat or, something, Chex, he's just a handful of fiber and grain and he, I don't know how long he did that. I met him in the Dakotas, but he was out there a long time, and if that's and
It-
he was not a fancy eater.
If he's eating Cheerios from Oregon, that's pretty good. I don't know if I can go that far. But yeah, when I whitewater paddle, I don't eat during the day unless it's cold, and then I eat because you have to fuel. Otherwise, your performance goes down. But I tend to have a pretty decent breakfast. Most of the rest of the day, I'm not doing a whole lot. And at night, I have found out I can pour the boiling water into the Coors packet. So I've just cut down on dishes. I tried that at home here. It worked beautifully. So I just got to make sure I pack everything out with me when I get to the marinas, get rid of my garbage, things like that. So I plan on, I think I'll take advantage of civilization when I see it. Otherwise, I'm just going to go minimalist. And I could use some COVID weight. I mean, COVID was really good to me because I didn't work out much. So my son has said this is the most drastic weight loss program I've ever attempted. I said, well, it'll work that way. That's for certain. Though some of the paddlers don't lose weight when they're out there. I will. I know I'll cut down just because I won't eat like I normally do.
Take care of your back.
Yeah. Other questions? Reaction. Let's see what's Bob have here. Reactions. Well, so you can imagine I'm one of the few flatwater folks. There's not a lot of flatwater folks left in Iowa. We used to have the Iowa Canoe Association was huge. In fact, with South Dakota and Iowa, we traded newsletters for years back and forth. But racing has kind of gone away. It's the older farts doing it now. It's hard to get all the younger kids in because they have so many options for other things to do. So when I hang around primarily with dragon boaters and whitewater paddlers, well, dragon boaters know how to go really fast for 250 meters and then they stop. There is no going back upstream in a dragon boat. If you do, it's painful. And the whitewater guys are like, well, the river does the work. Just go downstream. So most of my friends are like, you're nuts, But my first 10 years of paddling was all flat water. And there is something about being in a boat, whether it's canoe, kayak, sup, and just gliding. Patrick knows it. I see when he's out and when it's glass and you get a rhythm, everything else goes away. Your boat is just sliding along, and that is heaven. The whitewater folks, we get it. We get on a wave and we just sit there and surf. It's the exact same feeling, but just a different water medium. So yeah, they pretty much think I'm nuts, but on the other hand, they know I paddle everything. So it's looking to be fun.
So I'm wondering if you get out and stretch every now and again or do some yoga, or how do you keep yourself relaxed?
I think that is the only thing I'm worried about is when is my butt going to sleep? After I've been in the boat, I whitewater paddle for 5 or 6 hours, and we rarely get out. So I know I can go that long. One thing I did learn, and I picked up from the knowledge off the Missouri crew, is that at least in the kayak, I have bought a seat that goes halfway up my back. I've added, it isn't the standard seat. There is more back support, and I've got it clipped in so I can lean back a little bit and have some support. I've also padded the bottom a little bit more. But yeah, we're going to find out just how fast I get boater's butt. And I've got a feeling the first couple of weeks I may be, going through some, you get another 3,400 miles, you better get over it and just keep paddling. I think I'll lock in pretty well. I've got the boat padded up pretty comfortably that over time, the body will just adjust to it. I normally can get on a rowing machine for 2 hours and go at 230 minute paces and put in rough, right around 2,200, 22,000, 23,000 meters. So, and yeah, when you stand up, it's like, wow, I feel like I'm 102, but I'm not going to be doing that kind of effort. This is just paddling and gliding. So, but yeah, if I do get bad, I'm going to go sit on the sandbar and enjoy it. I'm going to take hot chocolate with me so I can boil up some water and have hot chocolate. So, and yeah, up here, I paddle everywhere. I have done, I've been out to Golly Fest now the last 2 seasons. We've got on the New River. I've been to Costa Rica and done whitewater in Costa Rica. I did flatwater in Australia and Spain. Just I've been to Colorado. About the only places I haven't hit in the U.S., either flat or whitewater, have been the Northwest, Oregon, Idaho. I've not been up and done some of that, or the East Coast up in New England, Kennebec, some of that water. But I'm down in North Carolina 2 or 3 times a year. We're in West Virginia. We'll make a trip to the Colorado. I've got a couple friends that guide out there. We'll hit that once every 3 or 4 years. Colorado River is big on the list, and we have a plan. We're going to put all our kayaks on a J boat. They're going to drive us to the rapid. We're going to paddle it, get back on the boat. We are looking at the luxury limousine Grand Canyon trip, where you don't load the whole boat up. You're just you and your boat, so we can make the most of the whitewater and not the flat water. Because I've had a couple of friends that have done the Grand Canyon, and they say it is absolutely must do. So that's what I'm looking forward to. As a down the road, that's another trip.
So what about when it gets so hot? July and that's hot.
It's, we've done dragon boat festivals where we steer 8-9 hours and 85, and you just, again, I can stop. There's nothing that says I have to be an XYZ on this day and this time. I've not set that kind of schedule. I've got a big floppy hat. I'm wearing long sleeve shirts because I don't want to goop up with suntan lotion all the time. I want to minimize how much lotion I've got to use. So if I have to dip the river and put a hat full of water over the top, I can do that. So I've done enough paddling. I've seen enough conditions from unbelievably hot to like this weekend. I'm the safety boater for our IWC canoe class. It's supposed to snow Friday lightly, and the high on Saturday is 48. I'll have a dry suit on. So, but that's one reason to start in June I don't want to take cold weather clothes and hot weather clothes. I'm going to try to, again, minimalize it. And I've got enough clothes to be warm, probably not enough clothes to be super comfortable. And as one of my friends says, as long as your sleeping bag is dry, you are safe. You get wet, get cold, you got to pull out because of hypothermia. My sleeping bag is going to be double dry bag so that no matter what happens, it's not getting wet. So I think I've got that covered.
Anybody else have any questions?
I'll make one comment, Dave, and that's it's not unusual if you get to a dam to portage, the game fish and parks guys, depending, within themselves, it's just a long-standing thing that they would help you, and they all drive trucks and they have trailers, and you probably heard that, but we talk to those guys, and they make it pretty well known that that's acceptable thing. So if you can't find somebody or coordinate, I can't think of the dam with the large portage, and I don't know North Dakota, but I don't have any experience with. Is it Fort Thompson, Pat?
Fort Thompson short.
Okay.
Fort Thompson's gonna be an easy one.
There's one dam where you just can't, go up and over or around at the edges. The service road is like out and around, so it ends up being. But there'll be somebody there, and I think per Dave's book too, a lot of the campgrounds are right at the dams. So I'm going to stop there for the night and set up camp and work that too. So I've gone through the locking dams on the Mississippi. This will just be a different experience of just going around a big man-made structure. Well, cool. Thanks, guys, for letting me blab tonight. I will be putting out, I'll make sure I get it to Patrick and the crew. I'm going to do a test this weekend to make sure that I do a track. I'm going to send it to my son on this link. Can he open up that link and see the route and go through that? So if that works, then I'm going to put it out to everybody, and that way folks will have it. And yeah, if you're bored out of your gourd, you want to see where the heck I'm bouncing around at, but that's the plan. Is at least I will have constant communication via the inReach and just work it that way from that end. But thanks, it's been fun. And as you can tell, I'm looking forward to this. One, A, I'm retiring, but B, just I think getting to see everybody and see the experiences. That's why a lot of us paddle, is just to meet people and have fun. So combine water and paddle, and it's going to be a good thing.
Well, thanks, Dave, for your support of the club and for this Zoom meeting, and good luck.
Yeah, thank you. You guys, everybody, you know, Mitchell down there, it's the Empire Paddlers, and Susie, and you guys there, the things that go on in the Midwest that the association are doing to, you know, education to make people safer, getting youth into boating, doing these trips, you know, anything I can do to help, I'm going to do, because it makes our paddling community better and stronger. So, you know, kudos to you guys, because the association is really active, does really cool things, and just being able to help with that is fun.